Cheater, cheater, pumpkin eater. That seems to be the theme this weekend because it looks like Megan Thee Stallion is blasting her now ex-boyfriend Klay Thompson for cheating. Not only that,
y'all, this is not just a breakup. This is a full-blown public explosion that just shattered an entire perfect love story in seconds. On April 25th, everything changed. Megan Thee Stallion jumped on Instagram with zero warning, and what she posted wasn't just a message. It was a detonation aimed straight at Klay Thompson. A relationship that looked polished, controlled, almost untouchable, collapsed in real time. But here's where it gets darker. Because this wasn't just about cheating. This was about playing house, meeting family, building a future, and then watching it all fall apart publicly. And just when you think you understand what happened, it gets worse. Because the words she dropped, they didn't sound like rumors. They sounded like evidence. And behind that post, insiders are now pointing to something deeper, a pattern, a shift, a moment where everything allegedly stopped being real. But here's the part nobody can ignore. There are whispers that this wasn't just one mistake, that there may have been another name, another connection, another layer the public wasn't supposed to see. And suddenly, what looked like a breakup is starting to feel like a cover blown wide open. Because if even half of these allegations are true, then this wasn't love falling apart. This was a double life getting exposed. So the real question is, did Megan just walk away from a cheating scandal, or did she escape something much bigger before it completely destroyed her?
many of you were hitting me up saying, Kempire, did you see Megan Thee Stallion is blasting her ex-boyfriend Klay Thompson for cheating? So Megan Thee Stallion took to her Instagram.
Y'all, what started as whispers turned into a full-scale exposure, and now the timeline is starting to reveal something far more calculated than anyone expected. Because right after that explosive Instagram post on April 25th, the narrative didn't slow down. It deepened. At first glance, it looked like a simple breakup, a celebrity split, another headline. But the more you look at it, the less simple it becomes. Because according to the sequence of events, Megan Thee Stallion didn't just walk away. She documented everything before leaving. And that changes everything. Now here's where the story shifts. Because insiders and observers started connecting the dots between what was said publicly and what had allegedly been happening behind closed doors. A relationship that appeared polished, supportive, even family-ready, was allegedly hiding instability, tension, and something Megan could no longer ignore. And then came the moment that confirmed it wasn't just emotion. It was evidence.
Story to post this message saying, cheating had me around your whole family playing.
That timestamp captures the first real crack in the illusion, the point where the perfect image starts collapsing under its own weight. And suddenly, this isn't just a breakup narrative anymore. This is an exposure timeline. But just when you think that was the peak, it wasn't. Because what followed pushed things into a completely different category. The tone changed, the language got sharper, and the accusations became impossible to ignore.
Back to this. So Megan says, cheating had me around your whole family playing house, got, quote, cold feet, saying to me, that's what he said, he got cold feet. Holding you down through all of your horrible, she puts in caps, mood swings and treatment towards me during your basketball season. Now you don't know if you can, quote, be monogamous.
This wasn't subtle. This wasn't vague. This was direct, emotional, and final. And from that moment on, there was no coming back. But here's where things take an even darker turn. Because while Megan was publicly closing the door, rumors were already opening another one. A new name started circulating. A new angle began forming. And suddenly, people weren't just asking what happened. They were asking, was there someone else all along? Reports, unconfirmed but widely discussed, started pointing toward a possible third-party connection. And while nothing has been officially verified, the timing, the silence, the subtle online shifts, they've only made things look more suspicious. Because in situations like this, it's not always what's said that matters. It's what's not denied. And when you take a step back, a pattern begins to form. Not just in this relationship, but in what people are now revisiting from the past. Previous rumors, old accusations, moments that didn't make sense at the time, are now being reinterpreted under a completely different light. And if even a fraction of that pattern is real, then this wasn't a one-time situation. This was something that had been building, quietly, until it finally exploded. And now the situation isn't just emotional, it's reputational. Because what started as a breakup has turned into a public narrative about trust, image, and alleged double lives. And the biggest question right now isn't just why Megan left, it's this. Did she expose everything, or just enough to walk away? Brace yourself. Just when it felt like the explosion couldn't get any louder, it did. Because what came next wasn't emotional, it was official. After the public blast, after the shockwaves, after the internet started piecing everything together, the situation crossed a line. From speculation to confirmation. Megan Thee Stallion didn't just walk away quietly. She made it clear, calculated, and irreversible. For a moment, people thought maybe this could still be salvaged. Maybe it was just anger. Maybe it was temporary. But then,
this week. So, according to TMZ, it says, looks like Klay Thompson won't be getting a taste of Megan Thee Stallion's sweetest pie anymore because she has just confirmed to TMZ she dumped him. The singer tells, not the singer. When did Megan Thee Stallion become a singer? But okay. The rapper tells TMZ via her rep,
that window sealed it. No ambiguity. No room for interpretation. This wasn't a pause. This was an ending. And not just any ending. A statement built on principles. Trust. Loyalty. Respect. The kind of words you don't use unless something has already been broken beyond repair. But here's where the narrative shifts again. Because once something becomes official, people don't stop asking questions. They start asking deeper ones. And that's when the doubt crept in. Not just from fans, but from observers who started analyzing the details more closely. Because something didn't fully add up.
respect are non-negotiable for me in a relationship. Did he ask for an open relationship? I'm trying to understand what this conversation was. Because did he...
That moment didn't confirm anything, but it opened a door. A possibility that maybe the situation wasn't as simple as it looked. Was it cheating? Or was it something else entirely? A misalignment? A conversation about boundaries? An arrangement that fell apart? Because when people start asking whether it was betrayal or an attempt at something unconventional, you know the story has layers. And those layers are where things get complicated. Because now, it's not just about what Megan said. It's about what wasn't fully explained. And while she stood firm on her decision, the silence from Klay Thompson only made things louder. No clear denial. No detailed response. No attempt to publicly counter the narrative. And in a situation like this, silence doesn't calm things down. It amplifies everything. Because now the internet isn't just reacting. It's reconstructing. People started going back, replaying moments, re-examining appearances, interactions, timing, looking for cracks that may have always been there. And that's when another theory began to circulate. Not confirmed, not proven, but persistent. That this relationship might not have been as solid as it appeared from the outside. That behind the polished images, the public affection, the perfect couple aesthetic, there may have been uncertainty from the beginning. And if that's true, then this breakup wasn't sudden. It was inevitable. But what makes this even more intense is how quickly everything flipped. Because while Megan was making a clean, decisive exit, the narrative around Klay was becoming more complex. Not just as a partner, but as a pattern. Because when questions start repeating themselves across different situations, people stop seeing incidents and start seeing behavior. And that's where reputations begin to shift. From isolated allegations to something that feels consistent. And now, the situation isn't just about two people anymore. It's about perception, public image, credibility. Because in the world of high-profile relationships, what people believe can be just as powerful as what actually happened. And right now, what people believe is evolving by the hour. Because the more this story unfolds, the less it feels like a simple breakup. And the more it feels like something that was always heading toward collapse. And the biggest question now isn't just what happened between them. It's this. Was this relationship built on something real, or was it already breaking long before anyone noticed? Buckle up, just when it felt like every piece of the story had already been exposed. A new layer started to form, and it changes everything. Because at this point, this isn't just about a breakup anymore. It's about what this breakup might actually represent. After the statements, after the silence, after the internet picked sides and built narratives, the situation didn't cool down. It evolved. And the more people started analyzing the timeline, the more one uncomfortable question began to rise to the surface. Was this relationship ever what it seemed? At first, it looked like a clean exit. A woman choosing herself, walking away from alleged betrayal, closing a chapter with clarity. But when you rewind the sequence, when you really slow it down, something feels off. Because the way everything unfolded, it wasn't chaotic. It was precise. The post, the wording, the timing, everything landed with impact. And that's when observers started shifting their perspective. From emotion to strategy.
Intentionally this dramatic in public so that she can write a hit song and inspire all the girls.
That moment didn't just question the breakup. It reframed it. Suddenly, people weren't just reacting to what happened. They were questioning why it happened this way. Because in situations like this, public moves are rarely accidental. And if this was intentional, then the implications go deeper than anyone expected. But here's where it gets even more complex. Because alongside that theory, Another conversation quietly started building. Not about Megan leaving, but about what she may have already known before leaving. Because if everything she described had been happening over time, then this wasn't a sudden discovery. This was a slow realization, a buildup, a series of moments that eventually reached a breaking point. And that changes the emotional weight of the entire situation. Because now it's not just about one incident. It's about endurance. What was tolerated? What was ignored? What was finally acknowledged? And when people started revisiting that angle, the narrative shifted again. From shock to sympathy. Because suddenly, this didn't look like drama. It looked like escape. But even that isn't the full picture. Because while Megan's side feels resolved, the unanswered questions around Klay Thompson remain. And that silence? It's still echoing. No full breakdown. No detailed response. No counter-narrative strong enough to shift public opinion. And in a situation this public, that silence becomes part of the story. Because people don't just listen to statements. They interpret absence. And right now, that absence is being filled with assumptions, with theories, with speculation that continues to grow. And the more it grows, the harder it becomes to separate fact from narrative. Because now, this situation exists in two realities. What actually happened, and what the public believes happened. And sometimes, those two things never align. Which brings us to the most unsettling part of this entire story. The possibility that this was never just about love or betrayal, but about timing, image, and control of the narrative. Because if the breakup was timed, if the message was crafted, if the silence was calculated, then this wasn't just emotional fallout. This was a controlled detonation. And that leaves us with one final question. One that hasn't been answered. And maybe never will be. Did Megan expose the truth, or did she release just enough of it to protect herself while leaving the rest in the dark? And now, we're left staring at the aftermath of something that didn't just end, it detonated in public. Because when Megan Thee Stallion walked away, she didn't just close a chapter, she exposed cracks that people can't unsee. The image is shattered. The narrative is fractured. And Klay Thompson? He's now at the center of a story that refuses to go quiet. What makes this even more intense is how fast everything flipped. One moment it looked like stability, the next it turned into speculation, silence, and questions nobody can fully answer. Because in situations like this, it's not just about what's proven, it's about what feels real to the public. And right now, the public isn't convinced this was simple. They're asking if there was more happening behind the scenes. They're questioning the timing. They're dissecting every move, every word, every pause. Because when a relationship collapses this loudly, people don't just move on, they investigate. And the longer the silence lasts, the louder the theories get. So now the pressure isn't just emotional, it's reputational. Every day without clarity adds fuel to a narrative that's already out of control. Was this a clean break, or the exposure of something much deeper? Was this heartbreak, or a strategic exit before things got worse? Drop your thoughts below, because this story isn't settling down, it's escalating. And if this is only what we've seen so far, then what's still hidden might be even bigger.